Tonight, secret meetings and backroom deals, but no finding of corrupt conduct in IBAC's long-awaited report. Good evening and welcome to ABC News Victoria. I'm Danny Tran. Also tonight, a Melbourne arson attack being investigated as a possible act of far-left terror. More allegations of sexual abuse at an alternative Melbourne school. No calm over carry-on. Passengers fume over Jetstar's baggage claim. And bombing out, Dean Solomon bails out of the Essendon coaching race. The Victorian Labor government is once again under an integrity cloud tonight after a long-awaited anti-corruption report found former Premier Daniel Andrews and senior ministers struck a secret backroom deal with Firefighters Union boss Peter Marshall. It found the government gave Mr Marshall extraordinary access to ministers and he was able to exert influence. But IBAC stopped short of finding any corrupt conduct. State political reporter Richard Willingham filed this report.
A deal struck with a handshake but cooked up in private, all to end a bitter dispute.
Enough is enough.
In opposition, Daniel Andrews had promised firefighters he would end a years-long pay dispute. By 2016, his minister Jane Garrett was resisting the union's demands, fearing it would gut the CFA and cost taxpayers. That's when Daniel Andrews stepped in.
What we did find is very serious and concerning conduct involving senior public officials, including ministers and members of parliament.
The then Premier asked his left-hand man, Gavin Jennings, to get a deal done. The Special Minister of State thrashing out a deal with Peter Marshall, meeting in rented rooms, even describing it in a text as his secret mission. Miss Garrett, the CFA and Cabinet were sidelined. This agreement was negotiated with Jennings in a back room. It was endorsed by Andrews and Cabinet, the investigation heard. IBAC found Mr Marshall was able to exert extraordinary influence and was afforded privileged access to senior ministers. IBAC found that a large number of staffers were suffering some severe mental health issues for the way Peter treated them. Mr Marshall would contact staff and ministers at all hours. Miss Garrett, who died 4 years ago, said he was very relentless, very abusive, very threatening.
No, I did not.
The government of the day, including Mr Andrews, did not take visible or effective action to deal with the inappropriate behaviour of Mr Marshall, and that did expose individuals to harm.
Senior public servant Tony Bates was also involved in the secret deal. IBAC found he ignored public service rules. He's now the head of the Education Department.
I understand he has taken a leave of absence.
The opposition want him sacked.
This is a gangster government. Corruption is in Labor's DNA.
This is poor behaviour. It is intolerable. I will take action.
Peter Marshall fought all the way to the High Court against IBAC's ability to investigate. He wants the Commission investigated by Parliament.
2 occasions here, they've done a hit on this union and they've actually tried to find a corrupt conduct. They went looking for a finding that was simply not there. I don't regret anything in relation to representing my members.
Mr Andrews defended his conduct, noting there was no corruption finding. The dispute needed to be resolved in the public interest, and it was, he said in a statement. Current and former ministers say it's not unusual to work closely with unions and other stakeholders, but this does present a problem for Ben Carroll. While he wasn't in Cabinet at the time of this report does reinforce the idea that this is a government willing to bend the rules and do favours for its mates. And after nearly 12 years in office, that's a perception that's going to be hard to shake. Richard Willingham, ABC News, Melbourne.
And this afternoon, the family of the late Jane Garrett released a statement. It says, "We are extremely proud of Jane. Jane was a fierce advocate for truth and a fair go for all, particularly those who didn't have a voice. We wish she were here to see these findings." Federal police have revealed an arson attack on a Melbourne business last year is now being investigated as a possible act of terror. It's the first time Australian authorities have declared a terrorist attack might be motivated by far-left ideology. Stephen Jedgetts reports.
The arson was brazen and the message clear.
Stop harming Israel or else.
An unknown group targeting a Melbourne defence manufacturer and instructing others how to conduct copycat attacks.
Death to Israel. Death to Australia. Death to America.
Lovett Technologies makes parts for the F-35 fighter jet used across the world, including by Israel in its airstrikes on Gaza. Police say those behind the arson attack were motivated by hostility to Israel and have now declared this was a terrorist attack, potentially inspired by anarchist and revolutionary ideologies.
I've had an initial advice that the Australian Federal Police have deemed this a terrorist attack. That is frightening for any Victorian.
It's the first time police have said they're investigating a potential far-left terror attack.
There's certainly been extremist and violent rhetoric online emanating from hard-left groups, but this is the first time that we've seen this in Australia.
Police hinting they're closing in on the suspects, supplying new images of them and calling for witnesses.
They will have the resources and the support they need to get to the bottom of this.
What we're seeing here is an escalation. We've already seen it on the extreme right. We've already seen it amongst Salafi jihadists and conspiracy thinkers.
This declaration is only a first step for police. They still haven't made any arrests and any charges will have to be proven in court. Still, it's a potentially worrying marker about the way polarisation and extremism are taking hold, a problem which isn't limited to Australia. Stephen Jedgetts, ABC News, Canberra.
A Good Samaritan who was allegedly bashed by 5 teenagers in Sunshine is tonight clinging to life as police ramp up patrols across the western suburbs in a bid to stamp out violent crime. Van Viet Jung was coming to the aid of a retail worker when he was allegedly attacked on Saturday afternoon near his own grocery shop on Hampshire Road. 3 boys and 2 girls, one as young as 12, have been charged with affray, violent disorder and intentionally causing injury. The 60-year-old has been in a critical condition since the alleged attack, which has sparked calls for police to increase their presence.
It should have been there from months ago. Prevention is much better than dealing with a catastrophic situation that we have now.
We've got extra patrols in Sunshine and in Footscray, working with the community to help them be safe and feel safe.
In part 2 of a special investigation, the ABC can reveal more sexual abuse allegations at the alternative Fitzroy Community School in Melbourne. 2 young women have waived their right to anonymity to allege they were sexually abused by boys 3 years apart at the primary school in the 2000s. As Coco Veldkamp and Josie Taylor report, both families say the school then blamed the little girls for the alleged abuse.
Tali Carter-Davis has spent years in therapy after 1 year at Fitzroy Community School.
I remember the teachers being incredibly scary, and it was a very uncomfortable place to be.
Tali says as a 5-year-old, a group of boys got her alone and sexually assaulted her.
It was violent and it was abusive and it was painful. The boys did say it was for educational purposes for them, and that if I told anyone, I would get in trouble.
She didn't tell her parents at first, but they knew something was wrong.
She was having nightmares at night, and her genitals were sore.
Faye Berryman and her husband, Philip O'Carroll, set up the Fitzroy Community School in their family home in the 70s. In May, the ABC revealed historic physical and psychological abuse allegations against the couple and their sons, Nick and Tim Berryman.
I remember that feeling of, oh, shit, he's behind me.
And last night, former students made shocking allegations of sexual abuse and grooming against the founding couple, which they've strenuously denied.
I remember just being like, what on earth is going on here?
In 2008, Tali's parents claim when they complained to the school, Faye Berryman described Tali's abuse as natural.
It was, again, positioned like we were just some sort of prudish, sexually unevolved people. It was bizarre and distressing.
So, can't tease this.
3 years earlier, another student says she suffered a very similar experience. Eve Dixon-Cannon says she was 6 years old when a group of boys at Fitzroy Community School sexually abused her.
I just remember the boys going around the room and sort of securing it as if they'd done it before. I remember hands all over me, being touched everywhere, hands inside of me.
Eve's parents say they met with Faye Berryman in her office.
Faye immediately had her back up, and the only thing she said that I remember was, "There are no white lilies in these situations." Obviously, it's classic victim blaming.
Like, I was changed. I was completely different.
Eve doesn't blame the boys who abused her.
I don't know what they were exposed to, and that terrifies me.
On Monday, the day before the ABC revealed sexual abuse allegations, the education watchdog banned Faye Berryman and 2 of her children from holding positions of authority here at the school. That means they must step down from their positions on the school board. Despite the allegations against Faye Berryman, she's still permitted to teach at the school and was taking classes here yesterday.
Our government agencies are working very closely with that school, and Victoria Police are also involved.
Josie Taylor, ABC News, Melbourne.
A Victorian man accused of sexually assaulting a teenager he met in an online game has been remanded in Perth. Gurman Caldecott today appeared in the Perth Magistrates Court after being extradited from Melbourne yesterday. Police are accusing the 31-year-old of chatting with a 15-year-old girl from the Kimberley region before he allegedly flew to Perth to see her in September last year. Mr Caldecott is facing several charges, including sexual penetration of a child and making an indecent recording. He'll return to court later this month.
It just reinforces, if you're a young person and you're at home, parents should be involved in your life enough to know what you are doing and who you're talking to, because things like this sadly do happen.
The federal government has delayed a significant overhaul of Australia's migration program that's designed to clamp down on temporary visas and lower the number of overseas arrivals. The Home Affairs Minister was due to unveil the details tomorrow before postponing his speech at the last minute. Here's National Affairs correspondent Jane Norman.
Keeping mum on Monday's cabinet meeting.
Every cabinet meeting is tracking. Yeah, sure.
Chris Bowen downplays talk of a bust-up over a looming immigration crackdown. The details were to be unveiled at this very venue tomorrow until Tony Burke unexpectedly postponed.
Tony's all across this. He's making good progress.
At issue, the numbers. Net overseas migration is the number of people arriving to live in Australia minus those departing to live overseas. It peaked after COVID at more than 500,000 and has fallen sharply, but it's still well above Labor's own target. The government's aiming to bring the figure down to 225,000. With One Nation on the march,
something's rotten with this Labor government.
And the coalition pledging deep cuts, Labor's taking a harder line, considering changes including cutting the number of backpacker visas, restricting asylum seeker appeal rights and toughening family reunion rules. The aim, to clamp down on temporary visas, but it's contentious.
The family reunion program is a very important one and a very successful one.
Used by citizens and permanent residents to bring their partners and children to Australia.
We don't need to shoot ourselves in the foot.
Business heavily reliant on migrant workers, warning against any changes at all.
Don't rush into these things and don't just respond to shallow political imperatives.
The Labor Party room and indeed the Cabinet is very divided on this one.
Tony Burke's office insists he'll unveil the changes soon and simply needed more time to iron out the details. Having consistently overshot its migration targets, Labor is under pressure to show it has control over the system. Any change carries potential economic and legal risks, but there's also a political risk for Labor, which the Minister is seeking to address. Jane Norman, ABC News, Canberra.
Victorian students have gone to the top of the class in the latest NAPLAN results, recording higher scores than the national average across all disciplines and outperforming students in other states in writing and numeracy. Across the country, though, the scores revealed entrenched underperformance, with hundreds of thousands of students failing to grasp basic skills. The annual test of students in years 3, 5, 7 and 9 has found about 1/3 aren't meeting challenging but reasonable expectations, and 1 in 10 need extra help to catch up.
School's out, NAPLAN results are in, and these students from the class of 2026 are thrilled.
It makes me feel really proud of my efforts. I feel like all my hard work at school has been paying off.
I think my parents will be pretty happy with me.
A mark doesn't define who I am. I know it's just an assessment and it's nothing to be worried about. Adjectives.
But across the country, the statistics are stubbornly poor, and some experts are increasingly alarmed.
My personal view is that I am very concerned. My colleague called it a national tragedy. I would encourage parents not to shy away from it, but not to be too alarmed because it is one snapshot in time.
Of the more than 1.2 million students to sit NAPLAN this year, 65% met or exceeded expectations, but 1/3 of students didn't meet the mark. The results show students from the bush, Indigenous students and those from disadvantaged backgrounds are more likely to struggle.
There's a very big inequity in Australia between students from more advantaged social backgrounds and students from less advantaged backgrounds, and that's concerning.
The agency that runs the test says it's not all bad news, with a small lift in numeracy scores for students in years 5, 7 and 9, meaning almost 30,000 extra students are now exceeding expectations.
This is something that we want to celebrate. We want teachers to really reflect on the good practice that's happening there.
Every year there's a debate about whether NAPLAN is a good investment. Akara says the basic skills it tests are the building blocks of every child's education.
After all, those results are about our children. They're about the leaders of tomorrow.
Parents should already have their children's individual results. School-level report cards will be out later in the year. Connor Duffy, ABC News.
A mass funeral has been held in Gaza for more than 100 Palestinians killed in an Israeli strike nearly 3 years ago. Families and friends held a defiant procession through the bombed-out streets of Gaza City. They were joined by members of Gaza's Civil Defence Agency, who spent 17 days digging through the concrete of a residential building so the remains of victims, including more than 40 children, could finally be buried. Russian ballistic missile attacks have killed 17 people in Kyiv and left homes and warehouses on fire. It comes after Ukraine accused Moscow of war crimes, releasing extraordinary video of a civilian near the front line being stalked by a drone. Europe correspondent Catherine Diss reports from Kyiv, and a warning: this story contains confronting images.
Hunted down by an alleged Russian drone, Ukraine's president sharing a video of a man being chased around his market stall in a terrifying game of cat and mouse before the drone detonates at close range. Somehow he survives. The 52-year-old suffering shock and shrapnel injuries. In an interview conducted by the Kherson administration, he says, "My wife was screaming, 'Yura, run!' He was trying to show it that, look, I only have vegetables. There's nothing military here." Kyiv says the video is evidence of a Russian war crime. Moscow earlier accused Ukraine of terrorism for this attack on a Black Sea resort. 7 people died, including 4 children. Black Sea shipping also a target, though it's unclear who was behind this drone strike that set a cargo ship on fire. Overnight, explosions rang out. Russian missile attacks sparking multiple blazes in and around Ukraine's capital.
Residents here in Kyiv woke up to smoke-filled skies. Many of them, including me and the ABC crew, spent hours of the night underground sheltering in bunkers after being woken up again by air raid alerts.
Fighting has not stopped amid talks over peace.
We will be ready for all meetings. We expect Witkoff and Kushner to be active.
But with no end in sight, the war rages on. Catherine Diss, ABC News, Kyiv.
Jetstar's new luggage rules have sparked backlash from consumer groups. From February, passengers wanting to store a larger bag in the overhead lockers will have to pay for priority carry-on. The airline says the changes will reduce boarding delays, but critics say it's another hit to household budgets.
Jetstar's plan to charge for overhead locker space wasn't getting a smooth landing with passengers this morning.
Getting charged to do overhead is just ridiculous. I think they shouldn't do that.
You have enough trouble with the airline service as it is.
We'd probably be more inclined to put off trips, I guess.
If that keeps the fare low and people don't have luggage and they get it cheaper, then that's cool.
From next February, the budget airline will charge for larger carry-on cases. Only an under-seat bag will be included in the standard fare. Under current rules, passengers can take 2 carry-on bags weighing up to 7 kilograms in total. The new charges mean overhead locker space will cost at least from $25 on domestic routes, $52 for international. Consumer groups say the extra fees will only add to the cost of living squeeze.
Travellers are getting increasingly sick of being nickeled and dimed by airlines, and this is another obvious hit to consumers' wallets.
Jetstar says the changes will streamline boarding, guarantee overhead locker space and give passengers more choice. The budget airline also said the new rule was similar to other low-cost carriers overseas.
Look at what other airlines actually offer. It may be the case that, it might be cheaper to just get a different flight that already includes the baggage that you need.
Another hit to the hip pocket for consumers during a turbulent time for the travel industry. Christy Sexton-McGrath, ABC News.
To finance now, and the local share market rose again today for the 7th time in 8 days on the back of another powerful gain in New York. Here's Alan Kohler.
We often talk about how many billions have been wiped off the ASX when it falls a lot. But let's pause and reflect that $135 billion has been wiped onto the local share market since the start of last week in an almost unbroken series of gains, with the big caps like CSL, Wesfarmers, BHP and Commonwealth Bank leading the way, although the banks did go backwards today. Now, that 5% rise in the Australian market over the past week and a half has coincided with a similar rise in New York and a 20% fall in oil futures, half of which happened yesterday and the day before. Is this cause and effect? Oil down, shares up? Well, it's partly true, that's for sure, but the correlation between oil and the share market is pretty loose and recent. In June, they both went up. It's got more to do with earnings, actually, with quarterly reports now beating most optimistic forecasts of Wall Street analysts. Last night, SpaceX produced its first quarterly, much better than expected, although the share price fell in after-hours trading because Elon Musk spooked investors with his plans for colossal spending on data centres. Also, the oil price is falling on smoke from the White House rather than any actual opening of the Strait of Hormuz, which remains closed, although it's pretty clear what will happen. The US is going to lose, and Iran and Oman will charge to go through the strait, which means it will be open. Meanwhile, the Aussie dollar is becalmed like a ship in the Persian Gulf. And finally, the census calculates home ownership at 66%, but that counts adults living with their parents as owners of the house, along with the parents. But they don't, of course. If they're excluded, as they should be, the rate of home ownership falls to little more than half. And that's finance.
Still to come this hour, after yet another AI breakout, Sarah Ferguson speaks to a former OpenAI board member about the rise of machine brains that can outmatch every human endeavour. That's next on 7:30 with Sarah Ferguson, straight after the news. The race to find Essendon's permanent coach just took another turn, with interim coach Dean Solomon confirming he will not be part of the process. Solomon took over from Brad Scott, who was sacked in May and has since managed just one win. In a statement, the club said Solomon's decision was made with a long-standing commitment to doing what is right for the club. The caretaker is due to front the media tomorrow morning. And while one interim coach bows out, another is in the box seat. Josh Fraser has been given a strong endorsement for the full-time coaching role at the Blues if he chooses to be part of the process. Carlton Vice-Captain Sam Walsh says Fraser is made of the right stuff, with the Blues dreaming of a once unlikely finals campaign.
If results weren't already doing enough for Josh Fraser's pitch, the Vice-Captain can help.
He's made the right stuff, Fraser, and the approach that he's made, it hasn't made it about himself. It hasn't made about him getting the job. It's made about how can we put this club in a better position.
And his words match his actions. Fraser's resume now includes beating the reigning premiers Brisbane and taking a struggling 16th place Carlton to 10th.
I think if someone had said when we were 1-8 that you'd be in contention, I probably wouldn't have believed them.
The Blues need to win their next 3 games to lock up the wildcard spot.
We know it's going to be a tough game. Spud's game, we can't wait. Double header with the girls.
The 8th place Bulldogs know what's at stake too, treating tomorrow's match against the Roos like a final.
You know, I think we all realise that there's a little bit attached to this game.
At Hawthorn, forward Mitch Lewis is on track to return from concussion. Defender Carl Amon is eyeing a return too over a minor knee injury.
Making sure that he can change direction and run and then pull up okay from those things.
The Hawks will escape Melbourne's wet weather heading for the sunny Gabba, but it's not a familiar venue, having played there just 4 times in a decade.
Yeah, so no, we haven't won there for 10 years, but we've only lost 3.
Out of contract line, Lachie Neale isn't fussed on the weather after touring Collingwood HQ on Friday.
I think I got there about 15 minutes too late, so would have been good to be there and say good day.
Adding to the speculation, the dual Brownlow medalist is on the move.
We run the motto of we want to get better, so if that's looking at players that can make us better in any regard, obviously we want to look at those players.
Alexia Pesce, ABC News.
A novel about estranged siblings returning to Borneo to reckon with their father's death has won Australia's most prestigious book prize. The $60,000 Miles Franklin was awarded to Australian-Malaysian writer Omar Musa for his novel Fierce Land. The author says the novel took 6 years to write, and he hopes the prize will help it reach wider audiences.
You get a platform and you get readers and you connect with people in that way. You know, I wasn't writing it as a diary just for myself. I was writing it to be read, and I was writing something ambitious, something that hopefully pushed at the boundaries, something that took a lot of risks, and it feels like it paid off.
Now with the weather, here's Adam Morgan.
Evening, Danny. We're just about done with these showers now, but parts of the metro area, they were fairly constant today in a west to southwesterly breeze. It's been a fairly wet 36 hours across the eastern suburbs in particular. To 9 a.m, there was 21 millimetres at Berwick and 20 at Mount Dandenong. Since 9 a.m, it's been a further 7 at Ashwood and 6 in the city, where our top today was a chilly 13.4 degrees. Statewide, showers contracted to Gippsland as this trough pushed through Bass Strait today. There's even some thunder around Sale and Bairnsdale this afternoon. Elsewhere, it was mostly cloudy. Overnight was coldest in the Alps and mildest down at Cape Otway. Today's highs were 1 or 2 below normal. Highest was 15.7 up at Walpurgis. That low that's been with us now for a couple of days is now out over the Tasman Sea. Meanwhile, we've got some high cloud approaching from the west, but most of it is scooting along to our north. That's with the jet stream winds that are currently up over central Australia. High pressure nearby means tomorrow is mostly fine. We'll just see the odd shower down closer to the coast as this weak trough passes through late tomorrow. But those showers are mostly gone by Friday afternoon, which will be the pick of the bunch. That's because our next change is not far behind. It starts with patchy showers late on Saturday in Western Victoria, ahead of a strong cold front on Sunday. This one is windy and wintry. It's a real dog's breakfast. The Bureau's forecasting widespread 10 to 30 millimetres north of the Divide on Sunday, even more in the Alps, with much of that falling as snow. Tomorrow, Brisbane and Hobart are both partly cloudy. Perth and Adelaide are the only capitals with a possible shower on the forecast. Back home, There's a frost warning tonight for the Northern Country, North Central, North East and Central districts. There's areas of morning fog about the north and the east as well. Then we're in for a mostly cloudy day in the north, and it's partly cloudy in the south, with just those few lingering showers about the eastern ranges and down along the coast with that weak trough. Chilly tonight inland, then tomorrow is fairly close to average for August. 12 degrees in Castlemaine, 14 up in Echuca. East Gippsland should see just about the most sunshine and blue skies tomorrow. Up in the Alps, those showers will fall with snow above 1,200 metres. Here in Melbourne, there's a chance of morning fog about the nearby hills. Then it's a partly cloudy top of 15 in the city. We'll see light winds 10 northwesterly. There's a possible evening shower in the southeast suburbs. Friday, partly cloudy and 17. Saturday, a breezy 17 before that late shower or two. Then Sunday is wet. Rain becoming windy up to 15 degrees up to 25 millimetres. Monday and Tuesday, we've got further showers to follow with tops of 15 degrees. Danny.
Thanks, Adam. And that's it for this evening's bulletin. Thanks for your company. Stay with us now for 7:30. Good night.